So I am doing my end of the month wrap up, and I'd say I did pretty well this month. I'll say there were like a good number of DNFs before I kind of got my footing this month. So I started like at the end of November. At the end of November, I started reading Christmas books, and there were how many of them that I ended up DNFing in the month of like November and in December. There was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There was like at least 6 Christmas books I ended up DNFing because I wasn't feeling the vibes of the book, you know? Like usually within like 10 or 20%, you can kind of tell, you know, the way the story is progressing, you know, if you like it or not. Sometimes even like 5% in, I could tell like, I'm not feeling this. Usually within the first chapter, you can, basically assess the author's writing style and if you like it. I was not feeling it with some of these. Like one was an author that I read years ago. Years ago, I read her books and I just like, well, let me try her again. And I was like, nah, I've kind of like graduated beyond her style of writing. You know, there's certain people I feel like that they're very kind of like more immature when it comes to their writing. And I'm not always a fan of that because it bores me. You know, I could see like maybe in your 20s or so, you know, you may like this type of writing style, but then when you get older, your preferences change, you know? So you just don't feel that author's writing anymore. So yeah, those are how many that I DNF'd. So I ended up reading this first one here, which is an author that I like. So she ended up doing this novella that's called Wrapped in Love. It's a festive winter novella by Melanie Moreland. I ended up giving this one 5 stars. I didn't write a lot for this one, but I do remember it. So the characters are Shane and Callie. Now this is a really quick novella. So if you wanted to read a, it's only 75 pages, so it's very quick. If you wanted to read like a quick novella for like the holidays, I'd say, you know, definitely check this one out. So yeah, we got the characters of Shane and Callie. Now, Shane is like this city dude where he has like a good job. I can't remember what he did for a living, but he has like this really good job. And so it pays him very well. And so he ends up driving to go meet up with his family because he loves family. You know, he loves his family. He loves family time and all that stuff. He's very much like, you know, like a traditional man where he wants, you know, one day a wife and children, things like that, you know. So, because he loves kids. And so he ends up getting stranded in this little rinky-dink little gift shop kind of thing where this woman creates a lot of her these pieces that she sells. Well, she's, you know, hit like, you know, hard times to where she doesn't have a lot of money, you know, and everything. And plus she's lonely because she's lost family members over the years and she's just very lonely for Christmas. So he ends up coming in and he buys like how much stuff, you know, that it's going to, one, help her, definitely. It's definitely going to help her. And 2, he's very attractive, you know, so she's very attracted to him, but she figures, you know, he's going to be in and out. He's not going to, you know, stick around and everything like that. So they end up like, you know, like it's kind of like insta-lust, you know, and they end up spending like a night or 2 together, you know, because they both agreed, you know, hey, this is probably just going to be like a little fling and that's it. But they end up developing feelings for each other during that time because they are trapped in a snowstorm. So I love these types of settings. I don't know what it is about forced proximity. Maybe it's because during that time you really get to know somebody, you know, whether or not somebody's going to be freaking out because they're trapped with somebody, or you get to like, you know what, we're in a bad situation, but let's get to know each other, and kind of you lean on each other. You learn to trust each other very quickly. And so I think that's probably why I like forced proximity a lot, is because you're forced to kind of like confront things that maybe you would otherwise try to brush off or try to like not say, you know? So you end up developing like these feelings for this person during that time, because you learn to trust and all this other stuff. And so I really love forced proximity, and so that's basically what it was here. And so it was really sweet. It was a quick read, but like I said, it's very insta-lust. So, you know, if you're looking for like not that, I would say not this novella, because most novellas usually have some type of instant attraction because it's a short story. So, I mean, 75 pages. You only could do so much within 75 pages. So I really enjoyed this one. I liked it a lot. And I realized that I'm better with holiday romances that are novellas over novels, because I don't do well. I don't do well with, you know, long ass books that are Christmas themed, because I can only deal with Christmas for so long. And then I'm like, I'm over Christmas. Can we go beyond this holiday? Let's get into January, you know? And then I have to deal with February and you know, Valentine's. And I'm just like, ugh, you know, I hate Valentine's Day. You know, like it's funny because I'm for somebody who loves romance novels, I hate Valentine's Day. It's so like manufactured. I just hate it. And it's like, my husband, I both agreed, you know, you can celebrate your love with somebody all year round. You don't have to like just relegate it to just 1 year, you know, 1 day a year. Yeah. Him and I, like, we don't really celebrate it. Not in like, I would say like a traditional way. Like, I hate flowers because they die. I'd rather like you buy me a plant and I try to keep that alive, you know? Same thing with like going out to dinner. It's so busy. Everybody does the same thing, and I'm like, it's boring. It's like everybody does this. So I'd rather like, if we're gonna go out for like Valentine's Day, it's more of like a lunch kind of date where it's not dinner and it's not super crowded. And like, let's choose something that we know that's not gonna be super crowded, because we do not like crowds. Both of us are like, we're not crowd people. So yeah, that's the next holiday I have to deal with, is Valentine's Day. So I'd say this one here was pretty good. I really enjoyed this one. It was very quick read, like I said. I really enjoyed it. So the next one was When the Lord Adored Me, which I do need to read more from this author, because I actually really like this one. This one was really good, so I need to read more from this author, like the series. You know, it's called The Rake Chronicles. So this is like 3.5. So I have to read 1, 2, and 3 and see how I like those ones. So this is When the Lord Adored Me by Lydia Lloyd. I gave this 5 stars. This one was more of a novella too. So we got Petunia. I hate that name. I'll just say that. Petunia. It just sounds so... Yeah. I would not want to be called Petunia. I think he calls her Pet in here. Something like that. But yeah, it's Petunia and Edgar. So it's friends to lovers, 12 days of Christmas deal. Lots of sexy times. There's a lot of sexy times in here. Virginal hero. He is only wanted to heroine, and she's a non-virginal heroine, which is like, you know, definitely more, I would say, more modern when you come to historical romances. I'm not always a huge fan of that, but I'd say in the story I actually liked it, because she came to regret her decision, like when she was out in the continent, you know? So this one here is Petunia, while traveling through Europe with her mother, loses her virginity to an older man and realizes that she really wanted Edgar, her best friend and neighbor, to be the one to have given her virginity to. She regrets it immediately. It's not like she didn't have a good time. She thought it was fine, but she really wished it was Edgar that had deflowered her, you know? Like, she definitely regrets it. So before she left for Europe, Edgar had asked her to marry him, and Petunia declined his marriage proposal. So she has gone almost a year, and when she keeps thinking about Edgar, she realizes that she made a mistake and really does want to marry him. And that's the thing, like, I think she thought of like, well, we're friends, but what happens if like, we marry and something, doesn't go right and everything like that? What if we come to hate each other? She goes, I don't want to ruin my friendship with my best friend. But then the more time she's away from him, the more she's like, I actually love Edgar. I can't believe I never noticed before that I actually love him and I want to be with him for the rest of my life. He's the only person who's ever been there for me for like how many years. Like they met each other like at teenagers, when she had moved next door, and he instantly was like, he liked her. He instantly liked her, and he's had like, he's been in love with her for like some time, so he's always been there for her, and wanted to support her and whatever she did. And so within the year of her being away, Edgar has written letters to her, but also has tried to get over the heartbreak of Petunia rejecting his marriage proposal. He was heartbroken. And I was like, this poor guy. I'm like, poor guy. He was so heartbroken. He wanted to marry her and she said no. But he came to terms with it and realized that they were too different to make each other happy. And this is something that Petunia has to kind of like show to him, is like they can work as a couple even though they are like basically complete opposites. He's very much like a shut-in. He likes to do a lot of stuff of in the house, like when it comes to like discovering new discoveries and different things like that. He writes and translates different texts, like that. He basically knows how many different languages, and then he goes and reverts those languages to English, so that way he can go and have the books published, so that way people know what whatever version was, the French version, German version, whatever it is, and they know what the English version is, So that's what he does. So it takes a lot of work of him being indoors, and she very much likes to travel and do all this type of stuff, so that, they are very much different. So when Petunia comes back, not only did she climb through his window at night to surprise him, and ended up seeing him dancing with himself, playing with himself, and he was thinking of her when he was doing it. But she also gets told by Edgar that she was right to deny his proposal. So Petunia decides to do a 12 Days of Christmas with him, where her and Edgar will be by themselves getting intimate, and Edgar agrees to her plan. So now Petunia has to convince Edgar that they will be perfect together. So like I said, I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 5 stars. I really liked it. I liked how it was like, obviously it's a little bit more modern, but it was something where I could tolerate it, because I'm not really a big fan of like those modern historical romances. And then historical romances wonder why that the sales have gone down, because a lot of people don't like modern historicals. Like, I don't need to have the woman have so much rights that I'm like, seriously, this was not possible during that time. So like, why are you putting it at this date when we know in history women did not have rights until a particular time, And so it's like, do I want to go and read about a woman who is treated badly? No, of course not. I don't want to read that. I want to read about, even though these women are dealing with adversity, dealing with not having rights, they're still finding love with these men who are going to treat them as an equal. That's what I want to see. The fact that women were not treated as equals, but the men they fall in love with treated them as equals and gave them more rights than what they were giving when they were single. That's the way I think about it. And so that's what I like. I like to see that challenging the system, And so now it's like you have it to where some of these historical romances, which I don't like to read now, I don't like to read the newer ones, because a lot of them tend to be very feminist in nature, and I'm not a feminist. I'll just tell you right now, I'm not a feminist. I definitely not this newer type of third wave fucking feminism. I hate that bullshit. I hate it. You don't want equality because we already have equality. We all have what we want. If you live in America, you are the most privileged. and it doesn't matter what race you are all privileged. If you're American, you're privileged. We deal with a lot less in this country than, say, women in Afghanistan who are killed because they decide not to wear their hair wrappings, because they decide to speak. We're privileged here. So if any woman in America says, I'm so oppressed, that pisses me the fuck off, because you're not oppressed. There are women in Afghanistan and other third world countries who wish that they could live here and have the freedoms that they do because of religious beliefs, or what people say is their religious beliefs. Yeah. If a religion is making it to where women are third class citizens and don't have rights, that's not a good religion. It's not a good religion. And that's with anything, forcing child marriages, that's not a good religion. So for me, I don't like the side of feminism where you try to be superior to a man, because to me, I'm like, no, we are equal to a man. We're not superior. We should not have more rights than men. We should have the equal amount of rights that we do and that men do. Men have less rights than women in the US when you think about it. Who has to go for selective service? Men. Women are not forced at 18 to go and do selective service. So if there is a big war, all these men could potentially get drafted. They could enlist the draft again if they wanted to. So all these men would get forced into doing military service where women wouldn't have to. That's why I have a problem with the third wave feminism, because they act like we're oppressed. We're not oppressed, not in the United States. So it just really infuriates me. So there are feminist authors out there. One in particular I really hate, and I refuse to read her books. She does historical, and she's one of the authors that's like, oh, well, I'm not getting, publications, giving me more contracts. So she had to go to a different type of, she changed her name and she's gone to more mafia type of romances, which I'm like, if that's what she wants to do, that's on her. But I did not like her historical romances because the heroines were too feminist, and I did not like the way they treated the men. The men were treated like shit. And so that's an author, and I'm not going to say her name. I'll just say I don't like her as an author, and I don't like her social media. She's a bitch. And so I refuse to read her. So that's an author that is traditionally published that I don't like. And then there's a few other ones who have changed their writing style to more modern audiences, and I don't like it. So I stopped reading them too. So there's authors out there who are traditionally published, and I really wish that, their books would become a little bit more popular, because I don't have a problem with their, work, their craft. But there's some other ones that I just don't particularly care for. And, there's someone I follow that I love her content, but we disagree when it comes to, she loves certain authors. I don't love those authors, but I still watch her because I like her content. So there are, historical romance authors out there that have changed, and I don't like the change. I don't like the way they've changed, and I just don't want to read their books. So I do a lot of backlist titles, but yeah, that's what it is with like the modern type of like historicals, is I tend to not like when the heroine has too much autonomy, and it's not correct for that time, I'm just not really into like past Regency. Regency, I'm not really a big fan of. This is why I never really got into like Harper St. George, because she's more of like, what's like the Edwardian, I think it is, time, or it's like, it's like a time when it's like women had a little more rights and things like that. I just felt like, you know, it was a little too modern for me, and I'm just not used to that, and I don't really particularly care for that. I like more of the Regency time, and yeah, maybe you know, I'm dumb because I haven't evolved past the Regency time, but those are the historicals I particularly enjoy, is those ones there. So yeah, I'll get off my soapbox and stop ranting, but you know, I'm not into that, and that's why you'll see like less people wanting who love historical romances. You're going to see less people reading these modern ones because we don't like the way it's changed. You know, I've talked to how many people, and they say they are not into a lot of the modern historicals, especially when it's trad historical, because they've watered it down, and I don't like it. And they've made it to where women have all these rights and the men are treated like crap, and it's been going on for years, and I don't like it. I don't like how men are treated like shit and women are like put up on this fucking pedestal. And I'm like, give me a break. There is a thing that you could do that's more middle ground, and you don't have to overcorrect. That's the thing, is like there's too many people out there who overcorrect, and then it's like, then it makes it unequal for men. So I'm like, no, just because there were men in the past who treated women badly, it doesn't mean that we do the same fucking thing. It's hypocrisy. So this is the thing I don't like. So that's why I said, like, modern stuff, I can't get down with a lot of them. And that's why they're not doing well. That's why they're not. Because it's too much shoved in your face. You know, and I just, like I said, that one author, I'm not going to name her, but I hate her. I don't like her. I don't like the way she speaks on social media. She's a fucking bitch, so I can't stand her. So no, I will not read her fucking books. And I don't care if she loses her fucking deal with trad publishing. Then go for indie, bitch. Go for indie. You know, because that's pretty much what it is. And, you know, that may sound harsh, but I don't like her. And I think there's a lot of people who don't like her writing either. You know, and it's like, just because you can write doesn't mean you should. And it doesn't mean you're going to be successful. That's just how it goes. You know? You write with what the majority likes. If the majority likes this, you write this. You're going to have more people wanting to read your books than a small minority of people who hate men. So, yeah. Sorry, I had to say that. It just really bugs me when you have people who are like, oh, give these authors a chance. I've given these authors a chance. I don't like them. I don't like their writing style. You know, I can feel the animosity coming through the page of how much they fucking hate men. So the next one, I hate to be a downer, sorry. The next one is Deck the Halls with Love. I like Lorraine Heath. I haven't read her newest ones yet, because she could be another one there where I don't like her writing to a certain point. But I like Lorraine Heath, so I'm trying to do a lot more of her backlist stuff, because I have a ton of Lorraine Heath I still need to read. That's another author I really need to, like, get through in 2025, to get through those books, is Lorraine Heath, because she does, like, a lot of, like, more wackier type of, like, historical romances and stuff where the stories are really interesting. And I really love the one book this year that was a Lorraine Heath book. So I definitely need to get more into her in 2025. So this one here was another novella. And like I said, I'm better at novellas when it comes to, like, you know, Christmas, you know. So this one here is Deck the Halls with Love. It's The Lost Lords of Pembroke. Now, I don't think I read that series yet. I think I still need to read that one. So yeah, I'll definitely get into that one next year. And then there's other ones I still need to get into of hers. So we have Lady Meredith. He calls her Mary. It's Merry. So like Merry Christmas and stuff like, yeah, you know, yeah. So his name, he goes by Chetwin. So it's a forced proximity, snowstorm, second chance romance. So you can see why I like this one, because forced proximity and snowstorm, heck yeah, get me that. I love all of those ones, you know, all of those ones where it's like, it's forced proximity, it's a snowstorm. Yes, I love those ones. I don't know why I love them so much, but I do. They are my catnip. I can't help it. And I love that this is a second chance romance. So Lady Meredith is engaged to be married by a man who compromised her. Now, this guy deliberately compromised her to marry her. And then we end up finding out why in this novel. So she doesn't love him, but she figures she'll be happy with him because, you know, she can converse with him and all that stuff. So that's why she figures that she'll end up being happy with him. Probably not as much as she would have with the other guy, but, you know, this one here, she's like, I'll just take it. So she would be happy, but the Marquess of Chetwynd is in her life again after he stopped pursuing her and ended up getting engaged to another woman. Now, she's still heartbroken over what he did, and I'm like, don't blame her, especially because they were, you know, courting. They were getting to know each other. They were getting to the point of, like, she felt like he was going to ask her to marry him, you know, and she was falling for him, you know, and he was falling for her. So Chetwynd got left at the altar, his fiance that he ended up, you know, asking her to marry him, because the woman that he was going to marry ended up calling off the marriage so she could marry someone else. Like, she fell in love with somebody else while, you know, her and Chetwynd were engaged. So he doesn't have any animosity towards her. He only was going to marry her because it was his brother's dying wish. Like, I believe, because I haven't read that book yet, I believe the woman was engaged to his brother, and the brother ended up dying in the war. So before he died, he had penned a letter to his brother letting him know, like, she's going to be by herself. I don't want her to be by herself. Can you marry her? You know, that was his dying wish. It was like, can you marry my fiance? Because she's going to be by herself and I don't want her to be alone. And I'm like, good, you know, loyalty, that's good. I appreciated that Chetwynd was loyal to his brother and he wanted to help her. But he obviously didn't love her. He loved Mary. He loved Meredith. So now that he is free to marry someone else, he goes back to Lady Meredith to pursue her again because he's like, I loved her. I broke things off with her because I needed to go and I wanted to follow my brother's, you know, wishes. And it also, like, the woman, I can't remember her name, the one he was engaged to, she had told him, like, you don't have to feel like, you know, I'm an obligation to you. She's like, I'm married now to this man I love and he treats me well. You don't have to worry about me anymore. She even told him that, you know, so, like, they're very much like friends. So it wasn't like anything for him to, like, oh, well, he was heartbroken because of it. He didn't even love her. He just wanted to, you know, do right by her for his brother. And so now he wants to pursue Meredith again. And so she's like, you know, why now? And so he basically has to explain to her why he went and was going to marry the other woman. So he decides that through the Christmas season, he'll see if she truly loves and wants to marry the other man she's engaged to. So that's basically what he does, is like he kind of challenges her to, like, you know, you don't really love that guy. And, you know, he finds out different information about the guy too. And he's letting them know, like, hey, he's only marrying you because of this. And they end up getting trapped at this old estate that's kind of like crumbling and everything like that. And I guess it was going to be maybe fixed up possibly. There was a new home. So they're not really worried about this old home. Eventually, they'll probably fix it up, you know, if they get more money. But it's kind of crumbling and old. And they end up, like, she stubbornly decides that she wants to go ice skating. And so the storm is coming in. And he's telling her, hey, this storm is coming in. We should head back, you know. And she's like, no, you know, you can head back. I'm gonna go ice skating. And I'm like, girl, don't be dumb. Just because you want to be stubborn, don't be dumb, you know, because you're putting yourself in peril, you know. And so what happens is the snowstorm kind of comes on and they have no choice but to barricade themselves in this old crumbling estate. And so their feelings kind of come to the surface. That's why I say I love forced proximity. Their feelings came to the surface and they just couldn't help themselves. And there you go. You know, they have their happily ever after. And it was really sweet. You know, like I said, she was very stubborn and I was like, girl, you're being dumb. But then, you know, the fact that he was, you know, with her too helped, you know. So the next one I ended up liking. I'm not sure if I'm going to continue on with this series. Maybe the third book, because the second book in the series, I just wasn't feeling it, and I decided to DNF that one. But this first book here, I ended up reading, was Bourbon Lies by Victoria Wilder. I fucking love this cover. This is what I want to see when it comes to, if you're going to do cartoon and illustrated, have it to be like this. It looks like the characters that are in the book, you know. She had red hair in the book, that though that wasn't her original hair color. Her original hair color is blonde. But in the book, her hair is red. And it's a beautiful cover. I thought the artist did a very good job with it, especially like when you can see like part of his veins, like in his arm and hands. That's some good detailed work right there. And it doesn't look AI. AI kind of has a certain style that I'm starting to kind of like get to know a little bit better. And this one here, it's definitely like someone else did that digitally, you know? And so I thought it was a really nice cover. And so I wanted to get into it because there were people who were liking it. There were some people who were kind of like not really enjoying it, but there were some people really enjoying this. So I decided to get into it. So did I say it's Bourbon Lies? Yeah, Bourbon Lies by Victoria Wilder. So this one here, we got the characters of Grant and Lainey. Grant is like the youngest of his brothers. He's got two other brothers, and they own this bourbon distillery. It's a family business. So they own this bourbon distillery. Grant used to be a police officer. I'd say maybe he was like in the FBI, maybe. I think it might have been something like that. So Lainey ends up coming to their small town. And so she's in witness protection for seeing a woman get murdered, and the killer is still free. So they had to hide her. So the agent who's basically protecting her had dropped Lainey off at this town because she knew the family. She knew the Fox family. So she knew that Lainey would be safe with them. Because Grant used to be law enforcement too. So Grant Fox and his brothers own Fox Distillery, where they make bourbon. Grant's girlfriend Fiona had died on the job 5 years ago, where they were both cops. He has since retired and started helping the Fox bourbon family business. So Grant also has a female dog named Julep. The dog was cute. The dog was cute. I always love when like animals are in the books. As long as the animals don't get injured or hurt and all that stuff, I'm happy. So the only people who know Lainey is in witness protection is Ace and his grandfather at first. So that Ace is the eldest brother. And I can't remember what the grandfather's name was. I can't remember what his name was. So I really enjoyed this first book into the series, as we're introduced to the Bourbon brothers, who are all very handsome, but seem to be cursed when it comes to relationships. So Ace is the eldest of the Bourbon brothers. He runs the distillery when it comes to the financial side of it. He also seems to be a bit of a playboy, with allowing women to come and go into his life. Even their grandfather has a string of women, mind you, elderly widowed women, at his local book club. Oh, he slept with how many of the women here? And I was like, dang, dude. I'm like, dang, Grandpa. Okay. These men are very virile. I'll give him that. So Lincoln, he goes by Link, is a bit of a playboy himself, not wanting to get involved seriously with any woman because he's still mourning the death of his childhood sweetheart and wife. He has survived by his two daughters. I can't remember their names, but I know they started with L's. I think the one girl's name is Lily. This was the thing I didn't like about the second book, is that you end up finding out more things about the marriage. So you think like, everything was great with his marriage, and then his wife suddenly died. They were having issues. They were getting to the point where they were going to get divorced. And so I was like, I didn't like how the author kind of portrayed it in this first book of like, oh, he's mourning the death of his wife. And then in the second book, it's like it's showing more of Link's side. And then it's like he's talking about how they were on the, precipice of divorce. And this other woman kind of like he was attracted to. And I was just kind of like, I don't know. I didn't really care for that. And so the other one, Hadley, is a longtime friend with the Fox brothers. She's best friends with Lincoln, and comes from wealth, but clearly she doesn't want anything to do with it or her father, so she runs the local bar in town. She also clearly has a crush on Ace because she constantly fucks with him and by calling him daddy. That's the one I'm looking forward to, is the one with Ace and her, because I bet you it's going to be Hadley and Ace for the third book. I definitely want to read the third book. But that second book, I wasn't feeling it. I ended up DNFing it. So her platonic best friend is Lincoln, and so they tease each other a lot. So I really enjoyed the teasing banter between Lainey and Grant. For a while, Grant doesn't trust Lainey. He knows she's lying. But to his dismay, his dog Julep, and former partner on a force, likes Lainey and goes to her cabin frequently. As for Lainey, she has some trust issues from her past, and she loves that she makes friends with the Fox brothers and with Hadley. And the more time Lainey is in Fiasco, Kentucky, the more she feels like she's at home there. So I felt like this was more slower paced, more about their day-to-day lives. And even though it was slower paced, I did feel like Grant fell hard for Lainey. Even at the beginning of the book, where he is so aroused being near her, he literally goes into his home and rubs one out into his kitchen, or in his kitchen. And Lainey accidentally hears him. I mean, it wasn't that far along in the book where he's like jacking it to her in his kitchen and thinking about and talking dirty. I said also, once they did get it on, I did feel like Grant fell in love with Lainey way too quickly. So I said, other than that, I did really enjoy my time reading this and definitely want to read how the other brothers will be falling in love. And like I said, with my reading with the second book, I ended up DNFing it. I wasn't feeling it. And I was like, you know what? I'll read the third book. Hopefully I like the third book. But I will say, like, this book didn't wow me. I did enjoy reading it, but I didn't love it. There were issues that I did have when it came to, like, him falling too fast for her as soon as they went and had sex. It was like he was falling for her. Like the next day he was like having feelings, you know? And I was like, dude, you banged her like a couple of times that night and you're already catching feelings? You know? Yeah. I was like, eh. And those were kind of like issues I had, but like I said, I did enjoy it, but it wasn't something I loved, you know? So the last 3 books I read are all part of the same series. So I went and read The Pumpkin Spice Cafe. Come on. Here we go. This one here is called Dream Harbor #1. Now, I went and bought these books. I was hearing back and forth. Like, there were people who loved this book and there were people who hated it. Now, first off, I want to go into, because I already had said this in my review, I want to go into, when it comes to cover story, you need to market it correctly. So when you look at this book, what does it scream to you? Does it scream romance? Does it scream spicy? I don't see that. When I look at this cover, I see cozy mystery. That's what I see. I see cozy mystery. I see no sex on page, which I was fine with. You know, if I'm going to go into a cozy mystery, I know it's going to be more of a backstory of the romance. I'm okay with that, as long as the mystery is good. So when people were saying this was a spicy book, I was like, get the fuck out of here. This is a spicy book? This is a spicy book? Yeah, right. I know how some people are, where they're like, oh my God, that book was spicy. And everybody's spice level is different. Mine's going to be different than someone else's. So when I'm going into this, I'm like, give me a break. Give me a break. I've been reading romance for 20 years, okay? I know what spicy is. So when I delved into this, I was a little surprised that this definitely had more romance vibes than it did cozy mystery. It did have a mystery, but there was more of like slight, barely there mystery. Most of this was a romance. And there were sex scenes on page, you know, within this book. So I would say they did a disservice to this book because they went and put all of this and made it look like it's a cozy mystery. Is this a cozy romance? Yeah, I would say this is a cozy romance. It should be, the cover should be different. I will just say the cover should be different. If you want to mark it correctly, the cover should be different. So it says on the back, it's a small town spicy romance. So that should let you know right there, this is what you're getting into. But like I said, the marketing to this, incorrect, should be fixed. So with this one here, the Pumpkin Spice Cafe. So we have the characters of Jeannie and Logan. So content warning, I said if you're expecting this to be a cozy mystery with a side plot of romance, you won't get that. The cover is a bit misleading. It's very misleading. This is very much a romance with sex on page scenes and a side plot of a mystery. Like I said, very small side plot of a mystery. So Jeannie takes over the Pumpkin Spice Cafe that used to be owned by her aunt in the small town of Dream Harbor. One early morning, she is nearly scared to death by the local farmer dropping off small pumpkins. They're basically gourds, you know, the ones that you don't eat, they're just decorations, at the front door, and that he grows on the farm where he lives with his grandparents. Now, he lives in a separate home than his grandparents, but he lives on the same property as them. So I said Logan is a strong silent type. And while he is trying to leave after he scares the new woman in town, Jeannie talks his ear off. Yeah, she talks his ear off to the point where he's very annoyed with it. He wants to leave, you know. She tells him she thinks the cafe is haunted because she keeps hearing strange noises outside at night. So Logan suggests she head over to the town meeting and ask questions. She asks him if he'll be there, so he grudgingly says he will. While at the town meeting, she meets how many members of the town, and the mayor says that Jeannie and Logan can do a stakeout all night to see if they could figure out where the noise is coming from. So they end up finding out, they end up doing it, and they end up finding a fluffy white cat outside, and Jeannie decides to take care of him and call him Casper. So from there, Jeannie and Logan keep seeing each other around town, but unfortunately the problems with Jeannie don't stop. This is the mystery. That's the mystery part. She starts to think that someone is sabotaging her because she's a new owner to the business and maybe someone in town doesn't want her there. So I really enjoyed this spicy, cozy romance. Both characters were hesitant with getting together. With Logan, he was hurt from a past relationship where he had asked his girlfriend Lucy to marry him in front of the whole town. And he very much is like me. He does not want to be noticed by the town. He wants to just do his own thing. He doesn't want any stuff on him. You know, he doesn't want people all staring at him because he's very much, you know, an introvert. I'm the same way. I do not want any attention on me when it comes to this. That's why it's funny, like, well, people are like, why are you doing booktube? Well, because I don't have to look at somebody when I'm expressing myself when it comes to this book. I'm talking to myself. I'm talking to the camera. I look at my face, you know? So, I mean, it's easier. If I was doing this in a crowd of people, hell no. So he's the same way as me. So yeah, he had asked this woman to marry him, and she was very much a city girl, and she was only like with him because he was a good time in the town. But as soon as he went and asked her to marry him, she was Splitsville. She went and left, and I felt bad for him. Poor dude, embarrassed by the whole town. And this is a very small town. So, where am I? Yeah, he never wanted to be embarrassed like that again, so it made him a bit grumpy when it came to relationships. So where with Jeannie, this is the first time she's ever owned a business, so she feels unworthy and self-conscious. She'll screw things up. So when she finds out that Logan was rejected by his ex, she doesn't want to hurt him, so she tries to move slowly with him. You know, move very slowly with him because she's like, oh, I don't want to hurt him that way, and I can't believe that woman hurt him like that. You know, that's the way she acts. You know, and I really appreciated that she was like, I don't want to hurt him. You know, so I love the whole town and the cast of characters. You had some of the townspeople who were a part of a spicy book group, and that made me crack up. That made me laugh. I said, I will say, though, that the mystery of what was happening with Jeannie's business was very predictable. Like, I knew who was doing it. And I figured out who was trying to scare her away. But other than that, I did really enjoy reading this book. I did really enjoy it. That's why I ended up giving it, like, 5 stars because I really enjoyed this first book. You know, I liked the setting of it. And there were people, it's funny because people were like, well, I get like, what's it called? Stars Hollow or whatever it's called. It's Gilmore Girls Town or whatever it is. Everybody was talking about how this was very much like Gilmore Girls. Even if it was, okay, that's fine. I will say, like, I'm not a fan of Gilmore Girls. So I just couldn't get into it. Like, I watched like how many episodes and I was like, I did not like the mother. I did not like the mother. I felt like she was too immature. And yeah, she was a teenager when she had her daughter, but I really didn't like her. I really was not a fan of, like, what was her name? Rory, or what was I can't remember what the mother's name was. But I really just didn't like it. I was like, I don't know. I don't get why people like Gilmore Girls. If you do, awesome, good for you. But I just really couldn't get into it, you know, where I was more into like Supernatural and other things. I couldn't really get into that type of show. It just wasn't for me. But this one here, I really enjoyed it because it very much was, like I say, a cozy romance. There was a small side plot of a mystery to it, which I like other things in a romance sometimes, you know, rather than just the romance. And some people were like saying, I think that they felt like the characters it's too much insta love. But, you know, through most of the book, they didn't do anything. Maybe they kissed or anything like that. But when it came to like the sex, any sex scenes, it was toward like way past the halfway point before they were banging it out, you know? And I'd say there was a few scenes in here where they had sex. Like, it was definitely like a couple missionary scenes and a couple ones where he was going down on her and then there was she going out on him. So I'd say that was more normal romance. Like, if you go and you delve into romance that does have sex on page, I would say this is your typical what you would find, you know, when it comes to like the spiciness of it, compared to like, say, dark romance, you know. This is definitely more a typical what you would see. Probably a little bit more than what traditionally published books are, because some traditionally books are very sterilized and boring. This is why I don't read a lot of trad published books anymore. But I decided to get these used on Pango Books because there was a lot of copies to it. And so I was like, well, let me get it and see. And I was like, oh, there might be a chance I won't like this because I did hear mixed reviews of it. Some people saying like they don't know what this book wanted to be. And I'm like, honestly, the biggest thing was the marketing of the cover. That's the thing that I'd say is the most detrimental to this book, is the cover should be changed. As for the story, I did really like it. I really enjoyed myself listening to this. And I really like the characters, you know? So yeah, I gave that 5 stars because I really enjoyed it. But like I said, the marketing is off when it comes to the cover story to these books. So the second one I ended up reading, this was the second book. So this one's the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore. And this one here, I gave it 4. I didn't love it as much as the first one, but I did still enjoy this one a lot. So we have the characters of Hazel and Noah. So I said this book cover is wrong because it looks like it's in the fall. When you see it, leaves are falling. That's fall vibes, man. When you look at this book, fall vibes. Total fall vibes right there. Majority of the book took place in the summer. So why is this on here? Why is the cover on here? Bad cover. Bad. So I said most of the book takes place in the summer. So I don't understand why they would put a fall season cover on this book. Also, this isn't a cozy mystery. It's a romance with a side of a mystery. There's also sex on page scenes as well in here. So it said Hazel manages the local bookstore in her small town of Dream Harbor called the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore. Noah is a local fisherman and has a huge crush on Hazel. She's attracted to him as well, but she doesn't want to show it or admit it. So I said one day Hazel finds a book that has been dog-eared and a line in the book highlighted. She finds it weird Then Noah comes in to ask Hazel for another book. So every other week, he comes into the bookstore to buy a book from there. But he really comes into the store because he wants to ask Hazel out on a date. But he can never get the courage to ask her. So this is why he comes in every other week and gets recommendations from her. You know, she goes and gives him recommendations of books like, here, read this one. This is good. But he ends up enjoying the books. He ends up coming in because he also enjoys the recommendations she's giving him. So he looks at the highlight in the book and tells her that maybe it's a clue to something. So the next week, Hazel sees another book where there is another clue. She tells Noah and she asks him if he can help her look around the town for clues into the highlights of the books. And from there, it's like they kind of go on these little adventures together and start to fall for each other and, you know, different things like that. Like he already like has feelings for you. He already has a crush on her, but he develops more feelings for her because he very much is like a fuckboy. Like he, you know, he's younger than her. She's just turning 30. Like she's going to be 30 soon. Like, and she decides she wants to do these adventures because she's like, I'm almost 30 and I haven't really done much with my life. So she wanted to do these little adventures. And so he's 25 and he tells her that, hey, you know, I'll go with you and we could do these adventures together, you know, and you could do all this stuff. So that's why they start to fall for each other. And so they work together to solve the mystery behind the quotes in the books. While they're doing this, they fall in love. So I said, I enjoyed listening to this book. Hazel is insecure about herself and being in romantic relationships where Noah has slept around with a lot of women, not taking it seriously. But once he meets Hazel, he wants her and he doesn't know how to ask her out because it's always been easy for him to like get girls, you know, get girls to sleep with him. But now he wants this woman like in a serious way. So it's like he doesn't know how to really go about it, you know, of like wooing her, you know. So I loved how he kept going to the bookstore to ask her what was new, and she gave him recommendations, and he was doing it in order to talk to Hazel more. But he also enjoyed the books too. Noah was also insecure about his intelligence because he didn't graduate from school and instead bought a boat from his father and took off. He very much was like, school wasn't for him. And I had said, like, I'm suspecting he had ADHD, but it wasn't addressed in this book. But I do feel like he probably had like ADHD, can't sit still. Some things were hard for him when it came for school and all that stuff, with learning and all that stuff. And that's why I'm like, I think it's ADHD he probably had, because a lot of times when it comes to that, you can't sit still. You can't sit still. Your mind tends to wander, you know, all these different things. So it can be more difficult to learn in a structured setting that's like school, you know. Honestly, ADHD, there should be like a different schooling for that. So that way they're learning in a way that is helpful for them. And then they're not being forced to like sit still or be constantly medicated. There should be like a different type of schooling program for people who have ADHD. Same thing with like children who have autism. There has to be a different learning environment for them because they learn differently. You know, their brains work differently than how what you would say typical brains are. They have atypical brains, so they're going to think differently than what the average person is. If our baseline is here, theirs is here, you know? So, I mean, they have different types of intelligence. So it's the same thing with people who have ADHD. They have a different types of intelligence, and their thing is like they can't focus on things for long. So there has to be a way, a structure around it. You know, we have to really redo school, when it comes to public education. I really think that we should really do an overhaul of public education to make it to where these teachers have to go to school for longer to learn different stuff. So that way they know and kind of like can, you know, so some teachers I don't feel like really do well with, you know, telling the parents like, hey, I think your child could possibly have this. Education needs to get better. I do feel like public education does need to get better. We need to have other programs in place so that way children can learn differently, can learn a different way. Because like I said, not everybody learns the same, you know? It was the same thing with me. Like, I would say I was very much like, I've never been diagnosed with ADD, but I do sometimes feel like I have a bit of OCD now. I think I have a tiny bit of OCD, especially when it comes to like safety, when it comes to like being home. I very much have this thing where I do this every night. I always check the door 3 or 4 times. I don't know why I do this. It's something that it's like happens all the time for me, where I'm like, did I lock the door? Did I remember to lock the door? Did I remember to lock the door? And so I have to go and check it. Yes, I locked the door. I have to say to myself, I locked this door. This is locked. That's locked. We're secure. Now I can relax and go to sleep. It's every night. This is the same thing for me. I always want to make sure everyone in my home is safe. And so I always, because I've always been a protector. So I think like when it came to his character, he's ADHD. He's undiagnosed, but he's definitely ADHD. And so for him, it's like he very much had this where he thought he wasn't smart enough. And she's like, why are you saying that you're not smart enough just because you didn't graduate school? That, getting an education doesn't mean you're educated. I will just say that. Getting an education does not mean you're educated, okay? Because just because you know how to take tests well doesn't mean you learn anything, okay? This is the thing. Memorization is not the way you teach people because they forget it. It's the same thing with like how many people memorize the driver's tests. And then when you go out into the road, over time you forget things. So you end up doing shit where you're doing stuff against the driving, and you get in accidents. There are rules to the fucking road and you forget the goddamn rules, So I think for him, he very much had that. So he put himself down, and she had like confronted him about it and told him like, you put yourself down a lot. She goes, why do you do that? Why do you go and like insult your intelligence? She goes, you're a very smart man. Why would you do that? And so he had talked about how it was hard for him in school and he basically quit, and he didn't want to go and follow like his dad's rules and dad's structure of how he went and his father had this business, that he decided he wanted to go out on his own and do something for himself. And I'm like, good for him. Good for him. So he bought, with his, obviously he had like an inheritance. He bought a boat from his father and decided to go around and travel. And he ended up in Dream Harbor and decided he liked it there. He wanted to stay there. And so that's where he met Hazel and then started falling for her. I thought it was really sweet. Like I said, I had a few issues with it, and that's why I ultimately didn't give it 5 stars. But I would say I really liked the relationship and how her and him kind of really addressed things when it came to different stuff. So I really liked that aspect to it. So the next book I ended up going into, the third book, I was not a fan of this. I gave it 3 stars. I was not a fan at all. It had a lot of issues for me. So this third book here, I'm not going to keep this one. I'm going to keep those other ones for a little while. I don't know if I'll eventually donate them, but right now I'm going to keep them because I did like the stories. This one here, I'll just donate, get rid of. So this one's The Christmas Tree Farm. So part of the Dream Harbor number 3. She is doing book 4 and book 5. I do want to read those ones, so I will continue to read this author. So we got Kira and Bennett. Bennett is the woman from the first book, Jeannie. Jeannie, she has a brother in this book that she talks to on the phone. Well, he ends up coming to Dream Harbor for a visit during the holidays to visit with her, and he has dogs and all that stuff. I'm like, it's funny that they only show 1 dog, but the guy had 3 dogs. I'm like, why did they just go and put 3 dogs on here? And I'm like, yeah, it was Christmas time, but again, the cover, it should be different. I'm like, if you want to do more of a Christmas theme cover, that's fine. But I'm like, 3 dogs, because he had 3 dogs instead of 1. I think, did she have a dog? Did she get a dog? I don't remember, but she loved animals. This one here was very much supposed to be like a Grinch kind of thing where she hates Christmas. So her name is Kira North like North Pole, and Bennett. So Kira just came to the town of Dream Harbor and bought the old Christmas tree farm. She hates Christmas, so she has no intention of reopening the tree farm. But because she went and got rid of most of her inheritance, she went and donated it. You end up finding out she donated it to like women's shelters and homeless shelters, I think it was. So, I mean, good on her. But I did not like this woman. I did not like her. She was mean. And it's like, there's a difference between being grumpy and being a bitch, you know? So Bennett is visiting his sister Jeannie, the heroine from the first book, with his 3 dogs. He is taking his dogs for a walk when he walks into the old tree farm, and Kira comes out and wonders why he's there. So Kira is a bit hostile with him, though she loves his dogs. He leaves shortly after and talks with his sister about it. They're at the town meeting and someone says that they think there might possibly be a dead body up there. So Bennett agrees to talk with Kira and see if Kira would consider opening up the Christmas tree farm again, which she ultimately has to because she needs money to fix it up. And that's the thing I didn't like about it. Now that I think about it, that's the other thing I didn't like about it. Honey, I understand that you come from wealth. You come from a rich family. But that doesn't mean that you have to give up all your wealth because you feel guilty that you were raised around it, okay? You were privileged. You were very privileged. Rich privilege is a thing. You know, like, when it comes to other things, I don't think so. But when it comes to, like, rich, wealthy, oh, very much privilege. Very much privilege. You can do a lot more things when you have money. A lot more things. Does it make you happy? Questionable. But I will say, it does pay your bills. You don't have that stress and worry anymore that you can't pay your bills. You can go and put all your bills on auto pay and you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about it because you got so much money, you know? And especially if you're the type of person where you buy properties and you buy other things that gains you interest, you can have an income coming in, you know? Like, that's what I would do. Like, if I had say if I won the lottery for a lot of money. Someone had recently won the lottery here and it was like $1 billion, and it's like, good for them. I mean, how much money is going to get taken out with taxes because fucking IRS and government? But you could do a lot with that money. And that's one of the things I would do. Like, if I went and had a lot of money that I went and ended up like winning lottery with, I would seriously buy properties like apartments and buy housing, not just for myself, but I would buy it as an income property because you can make income on it. You can go and charge rent, collect your rent every month, and live off the income of that. You don't have to go into, you can go and do investments into your money too, so it's gaining interest there too. You can live off the investment. You don't even have to live off your millions or billions you get. You can live off the interest alone. And I'm that type of person where I don't like to spend a ton of money, so I like to be frugal because I would never want to be poor again, because I know what it's like to be poor. It sucks. It fucking sucks. So if you have money, you don't want to be stupid with it. You want to be smart. So with her, I felt like she was done with her money because even though, yes, it went to a good cause, it went to women's shelters and it did go to some homeless shelters. So it did help there. So that's nice. But she should have kept enough to where she knew how much it was going to cost to fix this place up, because she did not want to ask for help for anything. She was so fucking stubborn. She was honestly a bitch. She was a bitch through most of the book. And I really just disliked how she was treating the whole town. And I really disliked how she was treating Bennett. And he very much was a glutton for punishment. I felt like he very much was a glutton for punishment, especially when you look at his past relationships. It was a woman that he went and was dating, for 5 fucking years. The woman would only call him when she needed something. She was using him. He very much was a glutton for punishment, would accept scraps from women. And I'm like, dude, why are you so self-conscious? Why are you so you have such self-esteem issues that you're letting these women do this to you, man? Don't do that. Get your balls, man. Get your balls out of that woman's purse. I mean, honestly, that's kind of like how I felt with her when it came to that. Was she was too much of a bitch. And it wasn't until toward the end where she started to change her ways. And I'm like, but I don't like the book enough to give it higher rating than a 3. Because through most of the book, she didn't treat him very well. She was doing just being really nasty. And I was like, bitch, I don't care if you come from wealth. Okay? You want to change your ways and you want to do things on your own. I understand that. And there's a ways of being a feminist where, yeah, you don't want to ask men for help, but there are things that you do need help with. I'm sorry, but women are physically weaker than a man. You're going to go and pull out your back trying to go and lift a fucking tree by yourself when you could ask the man who is like gaga eyes for you to help you lift the tree. You can do that as a feminist. You don't have to go and try to act like you're a fucking man. That's not what feminism is. Feminism is not acting like a goddamn man. Feminism is, this is why I'm going to go over this again. I fucking ran again. True feminism is having the right to own property. True feminism is having the right to your body. True feminism is having the right to vote. Feminism is working for a company and working yourself up to a higher position so you can get paid more money. That's what feminism is. That ultimately is what was feminism's goal. With the suffrage movement, what was the goal of that? For women to have the fucking right to vote because we were treated worse than dogs years ago. We now have a lot more rights than women did who fought for us years ago. This is why it pisses me off when you see women who are a part of this third wave feminism bullshit who go and treat men like shit. And they're like, oh, well, it's how women were treated years ago. Was I treated badly? No. Stop putting yourself as this victim class. You know, it's the same thing with any other people out there. You don't put yourself in the victim class. Were you treated horribly? No, you weren't. Maybe your ancestors were. And I feel bad for that the ancestors were treated badly. My ancestors were treated badly. But does that mean that I put myself in a victim role? No, I don't do that. There are ways that you could do better for yourself than what my previous ancestors went through. You know, like I very much have come from a family of very uneducated people. You know, they all quit very young to go into the workforce and work because they were poor. So their children, a lot of their children couldn't graduate from school because they were so poor, they needed their children to work these jobs with them. That's what my family went through. How many years ago? So with me being a high school graduate, going into like a trade school and all that stuff, I've done more education than what my mother has done, what my grandmother has done, what my great-grandmother had done. I have done more education than my past heritage. So I am doing better than what my previous family went through. Like, I can tell you stories of like my great-grandmother. They were so poor that if they got a ham, like a big ham for the family, they would make that stretch the whole fucking week. So you would have ham. The next day you'd have ham sandwiches. The next day after that you would have ham steaks or whatever it is. The day after that you'd have pea soup with ham in it. I mean, that's literally how they lived. So do I live like that now? No. I very much have more things available to me than what it was for my great-grandmother, my grandmother, my mother. You know, I have done more with my family because I was like, do I want to continue to live in poverty? No. I don't want to continue to live in poverty. Am I rich now? No, but I definitely am far better off than how it was for my mother, you know, or my grandmother, that type of thing. They had less, you know, even though my grandmother was very much spoiled, but they still had less, you know. So I am doing better financially, and I'm also doing better when it comes to having rights. So am I going to stomp onto my great-grandmother or my grandmother's less rights that they had to talk and say that I'm a fucking victim? No. No. Are there bad men out there in the world who want to go and lower women down? Yes, there are. But there are more men out there who have no problem with a woman working a job, have no problem with a woman who wants to own her own property. They have no problem with a woman who votes. they don't care about that. You know, they're happy that you're able to do that. You know, more men out there want women to be independent. They don't want you to be a gold digger where you're trying to steal his money. No. So for me, it infuriated me where, like I said, feminism has been taken over by a bunch of nasty women who hate men and want to disparage men and put men down into the third class, you know, society, and say, oh, now you deal with what we've been through. And I'm like, bitch, Becky, Emily, whoever you are, you know, Rachel, did you go through that? No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You didn't go through that. You didn't go through that. So give me a break. You know, like there's like a comedian, I can't remember his name, but he had talked about how people will say like, oh, you know, we went and made this country. And he's like, oh yeah, Tommy, did we really create this country? You know, and it's like, and it's funny because it's like, don't put yourself into this group of people like you created this country. And I'm like, no, you didn't. When you were born, this country was already formed. This country was already had its rules, everything. So don't try to act like that you were a part of the people who were doing the Underground Railroad and doing all this other stuff, who were doing all these things to go and make things better for you today, you know? So do not tell me that you went through the struggles of what Americans, every race, went through to create this country or whatever country you're a part of. Do not tell me that you had to struggle. You were born in this fucking time frame. You weren't born in the goddamn 1800s. So it makes me laugh when you have people who say stuff like that, who say like, oh, we had to fight. Bullshit, you did? No, you didn't. It's the same thing with the younger generation when it comes to the LGBTQ community. You are stepping on the grandfathers of the LGB community who have fought to have their rights, who have fought to get married in this country, to be treated as equals, and you're saying you're oppressed? Get fucked. So it really pisses me off whenever I see that stuff, like the younger generation that don't know what the fuck they're talking about, you know? And I'm like, I hate to sound like an old person here, but it's like, you didn't fight for these rights. They did. They did. They fought for that. You should have respect for your fucking elders. And so it just really infuriates me when you have a woman like this who comes from privilege and has to go and throw in her feminism and say like, oh, well, I need to do this. I need to whip myself in the back because I was rich and I need to go and give up all my wealth. And I'm like, no, you're dumb if you give up all your wealth. That doesn't solve anything. So then you make yourself harder to go and make something of yourself, make a property of yourself, be more independent. You can use that money that you got from your parents and do good things with it, and then make your own money to where you don't have to use your parents' money anymore. That would have made sense. I'm like, if I'm given money that I didn't earn, I'm going to make something of it, and then I'm going to make my own money that I earned. And then I'm going to feel better. Like when I first got myself a job, at 18, you know, I felt independent. I was like, oh, wow, I'm making my own money. You know, I don't have to survive on like my mom or my stepdad anymore. And when I'm asking them for clothes, every week I can go get myself some new clothes or buy stuff for myself like CDs and different things like that. And I felt independent. I could go to the mall and I have my own money, you know, that type of thing. That was my independence, you know, was getting a job, working for, you know, this company and feeling independent, you know, like I could take care of myself. And it feels good to do that. So when you're working your own job, you know, and then you get to the point where you're like, oh, I could become my own owner. You know, you own your own business. I think that to me is the most independence right there. And yeah, you may have had help to get there, but most people do. Most people have fucking help. It's the same thing with like, if you want to go and buy yourself a property, do you have all that money to go and buy the property outright? No, you have to get a mortgage from a bank. So the bank is helping you out to go and own that property. And then eventually you pay it off and now you own that property. It's your own that you own. So that's why I said a lot of people have to have help. You know, a lot of people have to have help when it comes to things. But eventually you get to the point where you're on your own, you're doing your own thing, and you're independent. And now you don't need that help anymore. So this is the thing that frustrated me about her. And it's like, bitch, you got help for years. Why are you not accepting it now? Because you're like, I don't want to take my family's money. Fuck off. You have such an easy way of starting your own business. You know, it's the same thing with like, I hate to go on a tangent here, but it's the same thing with like 50 Cent. I recently saw one of 50 Cent's sons gets how much money a month that he says that his father says it's child support. And I'm like, the dude is almost 30. That's not child support anymore. You're just fucking donating money to your kid so they could be fucking lazy. And this motherfucker has the audacity to ask for more money. And I'm like, dude, you're getting like, I can't remember the amount. I want to say it's like a high amount, like 40 grand a month or something like that. He's getting like 40 or 30 grand a month to live on. Seriously? Talk about fucking privilege and entitlement and being spoiled. Is this little fucker goes and gets how much money a month while the rest of us struggle to pay our bills or struggle to find food on the table. There are plenty of people out there who are struggling and they wish they had the amount of money that the little fucker has. And he has the audacity to say he wants more money? I would have told 50 Cent, cut that motherfucker off. He's almost fucking 30. The motherfucker's like 27 or 28. And I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Oh my God. I'm like, 50 Cent, can I be your daughter? Because I would definitely create a business, you know? And he's smart. He's smart. He created businesses for himself. Good for him, you know? He gave his son a business. He said, look, this business is going to make you a lot of money every month. Every year you're going to make a lot of money on this. The son didn't even want to do the business. That's how fucking lazy he is. And I'm like, that's the mother right there. The mother raised him be a fucking greedy money grubber, constantly asking the father for money. That's not how you find your independence. You know, come on. So yeah, for her, she annoyed the fuck out of me. And it was through most of the book that I really disliked her. And that's why I couldn't give it more than a 3. Because she really just infuriated me. I am looking forward to, I will say there are a couple of characters in this series that I do want to read from. It might be the 5th book. But there's a 4th book coming out. And it's something like Strawberries and something like that. I can't remember the name of it. But I think it's like Strawberries and something. Yeah, the Strawberry Patch Pancake House. That's going to be Dream Harbor number 4. And that, I think, is supposed to be coming out in March 13th of 2025. Okay, so that's coming out in a few months. So I do want to read that one. And that one at least looks like a springtime one. But again, they keep going with the same cover design, and it's confusing people. And you're thinking it's a cozy mystery, and it's not. Man, that already got 40 ratings. That's so funny. They must have got it from, I'm assuming it was like an advanced reader copy, an ARC. So that one's supposed to be coming out in March. And then there's another one coming out in September 16th of 2025. This is the Gingerbread Bakery. Now that one there, it looks like it's got Christmas vibes again. This looks like a Christmas book, and I hope it is a Christmas book because it's got fucking trees on it and you know, the wreaths and all that stuff. Reefs. I never say that right. Reefs. I really hope that that one is a Christmas one because it looks like Christmas. Okay, this is the one I'm looking forward to. It's got this character of Annie and Mac. Now, they have been teased throughout this whole book of they don't like each other. It's like very much animosity. And I'm like, oh, they definitely probably have like an attraction to each other that they're just not wanting to admit. I think he owns a pub and she might own the gingerbread bakery. I think that one is right across the street from the pub, I think. Because they also, which I think is cool in these books, is she shows a map in here, the town map. They have a playlist too, but I'm like, I think for you, if you're a reader, come up with your own playlist for a book, you know, rather than the author coming up with a playlist, you know? So it's the town. So it shows the town here of Dream Harbor. And so down here, it'll say like, it shows Noah's boat. And that was the second book in the series. You've got Logan's farm, the Christmas tree farm, which was this one here. You've got Pancake House. There's the Cinnamon Bun bookstore, the Gingerbread Bakery, the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, Mac's Pub. Yeah, Mac's Pub is on the same section as the other ladies owning their businesses. You got a pet shop, you got an ice cream shop, flower shop, Hazel's house, which she was a part of the second book here. That was Hazel. That's her house. Then you've got like the hotel and spa, which, you know, I'm assuming she might do more with this series. It might be like a longer series, because there are also names to some of this stuff, you know? So I'm assuming like there might be maybe a storyline with the hotel and spa maybe, and there might be a storyline with the Pancake House and the ice cream shop maybe, and the flower shop. There might be more books coming that might be for 2026, because those are the ones that are showing for 2025. So I'm assuming there's a possibility that the author may do like 7 or 8 books in this series, which I don't like long series, but it depends on what it is. But I'll say like for the most part, the 2 books I really enjoyed. It was that third one just really rubbed me the wrong way, and I really disliked that heroine. But I'm really hoping I like book 4 and I like book 5. Because if I do like those ones, I'll continue to read this series. It's funny because there were a lot of people who really just, there were how many people on Goodreads that were like, gave it a 3, gave it a 2. They absolutely just did not like this. And this is like something that was like a TikTok sensation. So I don't normally go based on TikTok because most of the time I don't like it. But I will say for the majority of this book, you had the characters that were thinking about each other sexually. Yes, there was that. But I will just say I'm at least glad that the author did not have it to where the majority of the book was just them banging it out, because that gets boring quickly. I'm glad that it was more than halfway through when the characters finally had sex and were getting that evolved and all that stuff. I appreciated that aspect to it. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this one here. Like I said, I'm going to probably get rid of this one. Or I'd say like if anybody, you know, if anybody wants this book and wants me to send it to them, I will do that. But you have to give me your address. But I don't want you to give me your address. Do not give me your address in the comment section. Do not do that. Don't do that. If you feel, you know, trustworthy enough of me to give out your address, you can always DM me in my, on my Instagram. I will get your DM. I will get it. And if you want me to send it out to you for free, I will do that. But most times I usually just donate this. But if you do want it, please do not leave your address. Again, do not leave your address in the comment section. I will end up deleting it because I don't want you getting compromised, okay? And I want people knowing your address. So it's not safe for you to do that. If you have a P.O. box, or you have you know, like a regular address that you want me to send it to, that is a safe address for you, and you want to do that, that's fine. I will send this to you if that's what you want. But, you know, like I said, don't go and comment in the comment section that, okay? Because it's not safe for you to do that. But I'll go and give this one away. I will say, like, there is like a little bit toward the end. There's like a little wrinkling right here toward the end. It's just a slight, because I ended up getting a little water on it, you know. But it's very slight. It's dried up pretty well, because I tried straightening it out and pushing it so that way it doesn't like wrinkle. But there's like a slightness to it. But yeah, if anybody wants this book, let me know. I will send it to you in the mail, but it's probably going to be through media mail, so it's going to be, might take you a week to get it. And U.S. only, no international, sorry. But if anybody wants that book, let me know. I will send it to them. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this one here. Like I said, I had a pretty good month, like I knew what I wasn't liking and I decided to DNF, even though I had like a good amount of DNFs, but I knew what I wasn't enjoying. So I was like, I'm going to, do the same thing, like within a chapter or two, if I'm not getting into a book, DNF. And unfortunately it was one I was into, and then it started getting to where it was like 20% in, the couple was having sex, and I was like, no. These ones I can say, even though they are like either you love them or you hate them, at least with these, it was the majority in to, I'd say maybe like 60 or 70% of this book when they started to get intimate. So at least it wasn't quick, at least it wasn't quick. So yeah, that's it for this video here. Have yourselves a good day. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to each other. And I'll see you all on the next video. All right. Bye.